Hi folks, it's Andy. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I thought I'd record a quick video because we haven't done a video like this in quite a while. So I thought it'd be quite fun to do a kind of analysis video, but I think I'm going to call it more of a WAZA study rather than an analysis video. Because I want to talk about Gyaku-Do, or Hidari-Do is probably the correct name for it. But everyone calls it Gyaku-Do, so I'm going to call it Gyaku-Do. Basically, normally when we hit Do, we hit on the Migi-Do, the right side of the opponent. But it's actually, valid to strike the left side as well, which is why it's called Hidari-Do or Gyaku-Do. Gyaku means opposite or reverse, so that's why it's referred to as that. Now, the thing about Gyaku-Do is it's somewhat more of a difficult technique than regular Migi-Do for a variety of reasons, and because of that, it's a little bit harder as well to be awarded as Ippon or considered Yuko Datotsu, a valid strike, in Shiai. So we're going to watch a video, an Ippon reel, which we can see here from this channel, Japanese Kendo, a relatively small channel, so go and sub to them. And it's a collection of Shiai from Japan. That shows various points being awarded for Gyaku-Do. So before we actually hit the play on that, I want to just look at something else. Okay, so basically, before we jump into the video, I thought it'd be worth looking at this article from Kensh247. Kensh247, fantastic website, by the way, if you haven't seen it before. Now, it's a 10-year-old article, but it's still very, very valid today. And it talks about Yuko Datotsu and what it is and the requirements for making a strike that is considered valid. Essentially, and I think this is the first sentence really sums it up, the act of successfully scoring a WAZA in Kendo, that's Yuko Datotsu, yeah, is the act of striking with Kikentai no Ichi. That's the unification of the spirit, sword, and body all together as one into a perfect, or almost perfect, technique. So there's a, a brilliant write-up here, and then there's also a link to a video I've done about Yuko Datotsu, and also there's a chart, and that's what I want us to look at now. Now, this chart is from the there's it's not the main rule book. This chart isn't in the main rule book. This chart is in a separate rule book called I think it's the subsidiary guide for refereeing, and essentially this diagram takes you through the key elements of Yuko Datotsu, and I've done a video about that, which I'll link in this video as well. But I've gone into that in more detail. But I just want to quickly look at that before we go through this video, because that's the thing. Gyaku-Do is a very difficult one because it's an easy one to look at, and sometimes you see it hit, and it's common. I hear people ask me, why wasn't that one Ippon and that one was, and why wasn't this one and why wasn't that one? And I think it's a problem that does exist. And I think it's something that as Kendoka and as Shimpan, we all have to improve our ability in. So just to quickly go over this, Yuko Datotsu, it says at the top, Kikentai no Ichi. So basically they're kind of the same thing. If you make a strike with Kikentai no Ichi, then it is a Yuko Datotsu. But the problem is the concept of Kikentai no Ichi is often misunderstood as hitting and stamping at the same time whilst you shout. That isn't just Kikentai no Ichi. It means that you have to fulfill all of these criteria in order for a strike to be considered having Kikentai no Ichi. So it has to have a riai, reason, and then actually make a strike that is the right distance, the good chance Datotsu no Kikai, this is the most important, actually, especially when we talk, not the most important, but it's very important when we talk about Gyaku-Do, the movement of the body, the tenuchi, the correct striking action with the hands, and also that the strike is strong enough, has the tsuyosa to sae, so it has the correct power to be considered valid. Also, it must have the good posture, it must have a good spirit, kiai, or that hase, the voice. It must hit the right target, and with the right part of the shinai, and the hasiji must be correct. You also have to have zanshin, have the good kamae, not just the physical kamae, which is the migamae, but the good kigamae, so the kamae of the spirit as well. And the referees judge these based off their experience, and with their eyes and with their ears. Okay, so how does that relate to Gyaku-Do? Because it's easy. The thing is some of these things are applied in somewhat abstract ways sometimes, or ways that you wouldn't necessarily always understand. It's not totally black and white or cut and dry, that it's always this or it's always that. You have to take the whole package of the strike as a referee, combine that with your experience, think about the whole situation, how it played out, and then you apply your judgment to it based on these criteria. It doesn't mean that it has to have all of these absolutely perfect, especially as Gyaku-Do is somewhat of what's known as a genmyo na waza, which is a particularly difficult or difficult technique. And it is difficult. It's hard. It's harder than regular do, and regular do is quite a hard technique in itself, but Gyaku-Do is a particularly difficult one. So so that means that, when you have what's known as a genmyo na waza, a difficult technique, then you can be a little bit flexible on some of these points in order to make up for the difficulty of the technique, right? Otherwise, such a technique would hardly ever be scored. And Gyaku-Do is probably a little bit under represented in Yuko Datotsu in terms of how often it's awarded. So I would like to see more Gyaku-Do awarded. I think it would improve Kendo for more Gyaku-Do to be considered valid. But at the same time, it must meet the criteria to a good enough level, so it doesn't actually diminish the overall level of Yuko Datotsu as well. So with that in mind, let's have a look at some of these videos, these clips, and we'll talk about how they meet the criteria. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Hope the sound will come through, but there's a link to the original video in the description, so go and watch that if you don't see them fully. So I can see already now. This is a side point. This is the Nishi Nihon Kendo tournament. I've entered this tournament a couple of times, so that's kind of weird. Wow. Okay, let's watch that again. So the players from Jordan. Bam, Gyaku-Do. Fantastic. Okay, so how is this Gyaku-Do? How is this Gyaku-Do? So from here, there is a fantastic seizure of opportunity here, where the opponent first looks to come forward to strike, but sees that his opponent's coming forward as well. So he bails out halfway through and raises his arms like this. Now, that is definitely a prerequisite for Gyaku-Do. The arms have to be up and blocking like this, completely exposing the target. That is your Datotsu no Kikai. That is your look how exposed he is. That is your opportunity for Gyaku-Do. If their arms aren't up, if you just whip it underneath their elbow, which is particularly hard on the left side, but if you manage, it's not impossible. If you manage to fit your shinai underneath their elbow and hit their door, even though they haven't really moved, that isn't good enough Datotsu no Kikai for an opportunity for striking. Okay. Now, what's very important here is the body movement that our Jordan player makes. Okay, his posture's good. His posture's good. He doesn't fully break his posture. He has to use his hips and his knees here. Okay, and he has to twist his body to make the good strike. Now, here's another key point of Gyaku-Do. Most Gyaku-Do points fail on the tenuchi and the hand movement and also the tsuyosa to saya, the strength and the crispness, because the hand movement is totally wrong. Most people often, they'll hit Gyaku-Do and just with their arms this way, bam, like that. Okay, that's not good enough for Gyaku-Do. What our Jodan player here has done is, as he's made the strike, he's twisted his body this way as he makes the strike. Okay, this way, and he has to bend his knees a little bit so that he can hit the target accurately. And he's twisted his body, his hips, as he's done that, which has kept the left hand roughly in the center of his body. Okay, because the center line of his body is twisting with his strike this way. Okay, so his left hand hasn't come away from his center. He's just twisted his body to realign that center line, which has allowed him to make the powerful strike. And that is another key important point in making the successful Gyaku-Do strike. Okay, because he's made that turn that way, and then he has to move for Zanshin, he's gone straight that way. This does leave him exposed slightly, okay? But this is the same as when you do Migi-Do as well. This happens as well. But as soon as he's made adequate distance, he's turned around and paid attention to his opponent. All right, so that's the Migamae and Kigamae. Okay, so that's the Zanshin. This does have Zanshin. Although there's a momentary loss of eye contact, that always, not always, but there often is indoor strikes. Okay, that often is indoor strikes, a momentary break in eye contact. But the key is to get it back as soon as possible and keep your attention towards your opponent. So this is an excellent example of a Gyaku-Do Ippon. Okay, you see as well how he steps forward on his right leg here. He was from left Jodan, so his left leg was forward, and then he closes the distance so that he's hitting with the correct part of the shinai, bends his knees, turns his hips to make the strike. His opponent has just realized what's happened here, and it's it's far too late for him to retaliate now. He has to totally shift his weight now so that he can try and chase, but by the time he starts his chase, it's already over. See, the flags are already on the way up. It's a fantastic example. So these are high school kids now. So another good example. So this is a different type of Gyaku-Do. So the first type was when he hit and he went forward after striking. Here, the strike's made, and you see how the player on the left here, he's made a very deep step in here, this way, and that has elicited this reaction from his opponent. This one here, yeah? And that's giving him that chance for Gyaku-Do, okay? There, and he makes the very good strike. It's a little bit short, but obviously with the flow of the shiai and everything, it's acceptable in that respect. And as he makes a strike, he turns, okay? He turns and he makes a solid strike, and then he removes himself from the confrontation or the situation by drawing backwards. Okay, so slightly different type of withdrawal than the first one. Okay, but very valid still. Let's watch it again. Gyaku-Do, fantastic. Okay, now this is fantastic. Okay, so a little bit over celebratory for my tastes, but that isn't enough to penalize him by not awarding this point. Here's the thing. This is one of the reasons that I said at the beginning of the video that I'd like to see Gyaku-Do awarded more when it meets these sort of criteria. Because if not, it encourages players to play from this position because it becomes the only valid target. So this is why that if you're in this position and someone makes a solid Gyaku-Do, it's 9 times out of 10, it's Ippon. Okay, so you see again, he makes that very, this position here. If you strike a good solid Gyaku-Do here, then this is for the most part Ippon, unless you really fluff the technique. Fantastic. Very good example. I'd prefer for him to keep the kamae here more. Like I said, a little bit over celebratory for my tastes, but it would be too harsh to disallow the point on that basis in this specific case. Okay, so here we have a proponent of Nitoryu. So this is a little bit of a different situation again. Let's see how this plays out. Oh, fantastic. So that was another fantastic Gyaku-Do Ippon. So again here, the Nitoryu player, it has the left hand forward. So there's a slight route to Gyaku-Do, even when they're in the kamae, but you have to elicit that reaction from them in order to create the opportunity. So our player on the left here made the strong intention towards the Nito player, which got him to raise his shorter hand here like that, and exposing the opportunity for Gyaku-Do, and then made the solid strike. See how he steps forward like this, and this brings up the defensive position from the Nito player on this side. Makes a good deep step there, and a very accurate, very good Gyaku-Do strike. He's broken his posture a little bit, but like I say, considering everything that's going on here, I think that's acceptable. He's had to turn his body again, like I say, so he can get that proper hand motion. And this is another type of zanshin that actually is quite useful. So this is more like the kind of zanshin that you would do after kote, all right? You don't necessarily have to separate from the opponent after making the strike in this type of technique. If it was from Tsubazeri-ai and you did it as like the hikiwaza, you would have to separate. But this was the kind of forward tobikomi waza. So like kote, he's stayed stuck to the opponent so that the opponent can't retaliate, okay? And he's not separated from him until he's seen that the point's been awarded. Next one. So I can guess that because this is a Gyaku-Do compilation video, the next waza is going to be Gyaku-Do. But what I would say is that from this situation out of Tsubazeri-ai where they separate and go to the wakare, to toma, it's really common for a player to step in and attack men. So kote waza and do waza are really, really popular from this situation. So that was classic textbook. So here he makes a big step in here, raises his hands up this way. His opponent doesn't know how to deal with it. There's no where he's coming from, so he makes this defensive posture. Gyaku-Do is the obvious option. It's the only choice for him to strike, right? There's no real other strike, but he makes that strike, turning the hips, hands pretty much in the center of the body. Good strike, and straight into the opponent so that he can't be retaliated against. Fantastic textbook. It, fills all the criteria. No over celebration, solid strike, good zanshin, kikentai no ichi. One more time in slow motion, solid seme, raises his hands to see what happens, and do. Very nice Gyaku-Do strike. Close the distance very quickly. See, something interesting here is this is just a side point, but the person keeping time, so when the match is stopped, they have to stand up and hold the flag to signal that the match is stopped. They actually started moving before the Shimpan had awarded the point, so even he thought that was a good Gyaku-Do. He started standing up to stop the match before even the Shimpan had fully signaled. Okay, next one, another high school match. Okay, fantastic. That was very well seen, Gyaku-Do. Very well seen, Gyaku-Do. So here we've got a tense interaction between the two of them. A player steps in to try to close the distance, tries to block out being attacked. But this player instantly makes it a very well-timed and accurate, powerful strike with good tenuichi to Gyaku-Do. Very, very good. He has to turn his hips to strike, very much like in the case of the first one. He's going to have to move here. It means that there's a momentary break in eye contact. It's not ideal, but certainly forgivable in the dynamics in this specific situation, especially as that window of opportunity for that specific Gyaku-Do was like a fraction of a second. It's an amazingly seen Ippon. You know, you have to award that. You have to. It'd be a crime against this kid if you didn't. That fantastic. That, you know, to be able to respond to an opponent in that opening is it's almost superhuman. So what's really important here is I've seen clips like that before, and people have said to me, why is that an Ippon? He turned his back on the opponent. And yeah, it's not ideal to turn your back on your opponent, but these things are not black and white, cut and dry things. You can't say that, well, that's not Ippon because he did that one specific thing that's not perfect. You have to take into account the whole thing. That previous Ippon, it was fantastic. It really was. Yeah, it would have been nice if he could have kept his body and eyes towards the opponent, but I'm not sure how that would have been possible in that specific situation, especially after striking in that specific opportunity and dynamically getting out of the way to avoid any sort of retaliation and properly having good zanshin. He still clearly had his intention towards the opponent as he withdrew. But as I said, he's got to turn to make that strike accurate and powerful. He's got to go. He's got to get out of there. He knows that the guy's, you know, probably going to be coming after him. So he gets out of there as fast as he can, turns around, and is ready to react if necessary. But by the time he's turned around, it's already Ippon. Wow. Okay, fantastic. So this is, again, the sort of more forward style Gyaku-Do. Let's watch it one more time. We'll go back a little bit further. So here we're from separating. This is a very, very, very common scenario. Players at the edge of the Shiaijo, okay? They know where they are in the Shiaijo. They don't have a massive amount of options. For example, if this player comes forward with a kote or men strike, it's going to be super risky for this player to do some kind of orgy WAZA that involves them going backwards, yeah, because they could end up out of the Shiaijo. There's the fact that they're near the edge of the Shiaijo is in their mind, all right? So that's one of the things that's on their mind, distracting them from what they're going to do in the Shiai. So it's very common for the reaction that, you know, how can I put it better? This player's top concern right now is probably moving to a better position in the Shiaijo rather than taking an Ippon right now. They just want out of that situation because they know they're in a dangerous situation. So when their opponent comes at them, they're probably just going to try and defend it and then get out of there and get into a more advantageous position in the Shiaijo. His opponent, knowing that, is going to use that to his advantage. This happens so much. It really is a common thing. His opponent knows that, and as soon as he starts to swing the shinai and come forward, the hands come up to defend. So he takes a Gyaku-Do, okay? And then he moves straight forward into him, like I said, as you would after kote strike. Because he's moved straight into him, even though he tries to make a retaliatory strike, it's impossible. It's impossible. There just isn't space for him to do that. Sticks to him, so there's no way he can be struck again. Fantastic zanshin. It's a great Gyaku-Do, a very good, very well thought out opportunity. Unless you ask this guy, he doesn't think so, but fine. I thought it was good. Yeah, nice Gyaku-Do. Good timing, good opportunity, well created opportunity. This guy's triggering me because his menhimo are far too long and they're not tied evenly. Don't do that. It's dumb. He's good at Gyaku-Do though. So here, again, this is a very straightforward one. So, don't know why that came up. So this is a very straightforward one. He sort of steps forward here, gets his opponent to raise his arms and makes the good strike, sticks to him. keeps close to him, sees the flags are up, then he starts to separate. Okay? Good clean strike with Zanshin. Good. He just needs to learn to tie his men properly. And he'll be fine. There we go. Door. Okay, good. Good Gyaku-Do strike. I think that's the last one. Brilliant. Okay, so Japanese Kendo subscribe. Yeah, I agree. Go and subscribe to that channel. It's pretty good. So I thought that was fun. Some really important points on Gyaku-Do. It's important that we consider Gyaku-Do as a valid target in Kendo, right? We have to consider that. You can't rely on blocking this way because you'll lose Gyaku-Do. And referees will award it if your opponent knows how to do it properly. All your opponent has to do is make the strike accurately, in good distance, turning their hips without moving their hand pretty much out of their center line too much. And then have Zanshin either by closing into you, sticking into you, withdrawing, or going forward and past you, all right? And to be honest, if you're like this, by the time that they hit you, it's over because you're in this kind of mentality like this. And you're going, oh, you hit me. And then by the time you react to that, he's going to be over there or back there or something like that. And it's going to be game over. All right. So Gyaku-Do has to be hit properly. You can be a little bit flexible on the criteria for it. Not too much. All right. None of this kind of Gyaku-Do like that. Has to be using the body and the hips as they strike. Bam, Gyaku-Do like that, okay? It's quite a good WAZA for me. I'm actually, I've had some good success with it. I consider it one of my better WAZA. And it's very useful. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Shop at KendoStar. Bye.